So it is PAX Unplugged this weekend, and we are knee-deep in all the craziness that's going on over there in Philadelphia. And right in the middle of the Energon Invitational, with the crazy turnout that's been going on for the Transformers TCG, we had a little mini interview from the Transformers TCG trading card game brand manager, Drew Nolosco. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, Nolosco. This comes courtesy of TFW 2005 member Heroic C300, and he asked a whole bunch of questions, and we got a whole bunch of interesting answers. And I'm going to kind of give my comments and opinions on these answers based on my vast knowledge of the brand, and of course of, when it comes to TCG too, I have a pretty good knowledge of that. And so we have the first one here. Drew mentions that he wants to have Minicons used in the future, and this is an interesting one because already what we have in the TCG, we have the Battle Master kind of character, which really at the end of the day is a Target Master. And the way that I could see a Minicon being used in that is because we have Minicons that are those private characters. We have the Battle Masters, which are kind of its own thing. And Minicons, really, when they came into the Transformers mythos, they kind of were this Micromaster meets Power Master kind of gimmick. And I could see them... It would probably be the first time ever we get a fold card, if you will, a three-sided card that would be the smaller trading card. Because so far, all our fold cards have been either done for the combiners or they've been done for stuff that essentially has been the triple changers. And they've always been large cards. So I could see something being done in the smaller card where it folds in half and you have a really tiny Minicon card. Because imagine, take the standard trading card size, fold that in half, and now you have a small Minicon. I imagine the text would be so tiny on it. And then when you open it up, it could be the Minicon attached to the character and powering it up in some way, shape, or form, much in the same way that the Battle Masters do right now. If anything, the only way it would be different from the Battle Master is having that three-faced gimmick, as opposed to Battle Masters that really they enter the playing field in robot mode. They have to be KO'd to then be in that alt mode. So I could kind of see something where now it's something that is flippable. It could have both an alt mode and a robot mode, and when it KOs, then it could become the Minicon thing, or it could be used even in the middle of battle and kind of attached to it. Maybe it's stuck to it. There's many different ways it could be tackled, but definitely from a Minicon perspective, that's a really interesting wrinkle that could be added to the game that could be different from the way Micromasters are right now and the way the Battle Masters are right now. There's a mention here of, would they like a common Ultra Magnus? Possibly he'll be returning at some point in the future. This would be kind of interesting in the sense that Ultra Magnus right now in the Transformers TCG, he's a secret rare. He was available in Wave 3 or Siege 1 as we know it, and he was Major Ultra Magnus. And also in Siege 1, we also had a card, an action card, that was an upgrade armor that was called Ultra Magnus Armor. So if you want to make a common Ultra Magnus card, what you do is you get rid of that armor and you just have Magnus under it without the armor. You could call him even Private Magnus if you want to call him, whatever simple name you want to go with. Just get rid of the Ultra, just he's Magnus. White Optimus Prime, no armor. And you could even have some kind of, activation on the card that if Ultra Magnus armor is put on him, it gives him an extra boost or something, and maybe gives him the stats similar to Major Ultra Magnus. It's, because especially considering that Ultra Magnus Armor being a rare in the game, and it's a 2-star rare, it kind of adds to it being a character. You could kind of, have that common Ultra Magnus in the game be a 10-star, and then the 2-star with this one makes it 12, just like the Major Ultra Magnus. If you get what I'm kind of getting at here, I could kind of see that happening. Here's another thing he also mentions. He loves Heart of Steel and agrees that he should give it should give more boat and train support. Now, Heart of Steel was a extremely limited run 4-issue IDW comic way back in the early 2000s. It was a very interesting book that had a whole bunch of cool designs, pretty much the Transformers if it woke up during, the steam era of trains and John Henry. And so the idea of, doing stuff in that kind of style would lead to more boats and trains. Again, all the Transformers, with the exception of a few characters, were mostly train-based, and then certain characters on the Decepticons were old-schooly kind of planes, or in the case of Shockwave, a submarine / boat kind of thing. So I could kind of see that. But I mean, at the same time, if you're talking Minicons, going back to the first question, the Armada universe, where Minicons first originated from, have tons of boats. You got Tidal Wave. That's a boat in itself. Hell, he could be a 3-piece boat because Tidal Wave was made out of 3 separate boat components. You have the Sea Minicon team, which had Ocean Glide, Waterlog, and Stormcloud. Now, granted, the Stormcloud name is already being used with a Micromaster, Raider Stormcloud, which I believe was in Siege 1. But I mean, give him another name then. But there was like 3 boats right there. And then, of course, Sea Spray himself. You know what I mean? He hasn't been in the game yet, so there's your iconic boat from Transformers right there from the mini-bots. Obviously, we have a boat right now in Private Sea Watch. And so, I mean, the boat subtype does exist. It needs more of them, I guess. And same thing with the trains. Well, I mean, there's not many in Transformers with trains, unfortunately. You kind of really have to jump into Japanese kind of stuff, and then even car robots. We're talking Raiden, car robots with JRX, aka Rail Racer. So that's a whole other category. And then they then go on to talk about how he has some agreements, no promises, to the idea of Steam Hammer appearing as a train, despite him being a construction vehicle most of the time. The character of Steam Hammer was an obscure UK Transformer character that was, no toy, nothing, back in G1 in the UK. Years later, Hasbro would use that trademark to kind of just use towards Constructicon combiners that weren't really of the traditional manner, whether it be Energon or that of the Power Core combiner. So they would use that Steam Hammer trademark. But the funny thing is, a Steam Hammer was actually at one point going to be a train, which was because that was trademarked with Hasbro. At one point at the OTFCC, the official Transformer Collector Convention in 2004, they were playing with the idea of repainting 2001's Robots in Disguise Rail Racer, which consisted of 3 trains, and having the characters of Astro Train, Loco, based off of the GoBot, and Steam Hammer as a combiner team. So, and of course that never happens, which is kind of a shame. Asking here if Wave 7 will be here by next PAX, and they said probably. Chances are, judging by how good the TCG is going right now, I'm going to say yes, I hope so. And the last thing they say here is construction as a subtype is probably unlikely, maybe just for tanks and trucks. And I agree with that one. I think that when you look at the Constructicons that are already in Rise of the Combiners and stuff, you could kind of make a construction subtype, but then after you leave Devastator, there's not many characters that could really hold that construction subtype. I mean, we already had in Rise of the Combiners, not Rise of the Combiners, Siege 2, we've had recently Mudflap, which he was a Cybertron character. He's kind of a construction vehicle, and he has been repainted into construction vehicles in toy form, that more yellowy kind of colors. And he just got the truck subtype. And even if you look at Rise of the Combiners, Grapple was in it. And Grapple, his repaint brother, which is Hauler, was a former Constructicon. Both of them probably, well, Grapple was a truck type in the card game. Hauler would probably end up being that truck subtype too. So it's something that more construction wouldn't make sense. And as if you move forward through Transformer history, yeah, there's little construction vehicles here and there, but they're mostly Micromasters. And then you kind of have a dry spell until years later when you get again until the Unicron trilogy and little Micromasters here and there. So it's something that I would not suggest anyways doing construction subtype. Focus more on truck, tank, that kind of stuff. It makes more sense. And again, it leads more to having, I guess I'll use the term lords, which are cards that affect a whole bunch of types and, gives pluses or minuses to it. So that's more or less what some of the questions were. I just wanted to give my 2 cents on them, just my own opinion. But this is pretty cool that the game did very well. I saw some pictures of that Energon Invitational. It was packed. There was tons of people there, so I'm very happy to see how well the game has been received. And I know that this weekend, while the Energon Invitational was happening, I went to my local comic book store, and we kind of try to get everyone to play the TCG. We buy a box of a boosters of Siege 2 specifically. We have to import it in because we can't get it in Quebec. And we had to just, we all pool in together and we draft and everything and have a good old time. And the winner gets to keep the Triptychon and gets a whole bunch of other extra packs because we don't use up all the packs in the end. But yeah, this is awesome stuff, and I hope to hear more from the Transformers TCG as it develops. PAX is not over yet. We still got Sunday.